Hey guys, still waiting for the bus, so here we go. Let's talk about feature crawl. And one of the worst things about feature crawl. Now, let's define feature crawl first and foremost. You're working at your company or at your startup or whatever, whoever you're working for. Your designer has put in a lot of effort and time, and your product manager has done the same to prepare a story for you, and then they walk you through how it's supposed to work. You're all like, you crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, you know fairly well, depending on how good of a prep work your designer and product manager has done, what you're going to build. You start building. And you start building for, say, like a few days. You get into the code, and then somebody comes in, Hippo, which is an abbreviation for highest paid person opinion. And a hippo is the worst type of person to have to deal with. It's not always a hippo, but sometimes it's a flaky product manager or a junior product manager. And unfortunately, I am in a situation where I work with people like that, and I also have worked with much worse than that. They come in and they tell you something is gonna change now, or they basically change their minds about something. And depending on what they change their minds about, you are now in a little bit of a predicament, because all of a sudden you may find that a lot of the code that you wrote with a set of assumptions about how it's supposed to work has now changed. But it gets very tricky for you to change that code in an effective manner, because in general it's very easy for you to start from nothing and build the right thing. But it's a lot more likely that you will mess up your code or make it less elegant, less high quality, if you need to transition it from one thing to the other. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Of course, sometimes it actually is a minor thing, but I'll tell you a story about it for myself. Like I had a few artboards the other week sent to me from my designer. I started implementing everything, and the way that I'm accustomed to working is that the designer wants this to look this way. That's what I'm gonna make. So I did. Took me a lot of time. I think I worked on it on a week, and then I had to start moving from the UI to the server and started working on that as well. And when I started working on the server, context switching is great. You start working on one thing, and now they tell you to start working on another thing. So you forget. By the time you get back to the first thing you were working on, you don't even remember what the fuck you did. And that's basically what happened. So I come back, and now I can see that, hey, these artboards have changed. It's not the same thing anymore. So what happens is that, oh shit, because the server is a reflection of what's going to be on this, like the models and all the stuff that I did on the server was in order to provide the data to the interface that I was building. So now that the interface changed, I have to change the interface and ergo go back and change the server again, which creates this whole cycle over and over again. And it's such a horrible experience to have. It's very frustrating. I'll have to admit, it's really, really frustrating when that happens. And it wouldn't be much of a problem if there was an awareness of this type of thing. But unfortunately for you as the engineer or the developer, you're going to find that very few people have, especially not designers in general, they don't have any. I remember working at my first company where I actually had to ask my boss to sit down with the head of design and have him explain to her, who is a senior, who's been working years and years and years, that when you tell Frederick to build something, this was actually not came to blows, but we had arguments, really arguments about this. And basically he had to explain to her like a kid, like a fucking child, like a child. If you tell Frederick to build something and he starts working on that, and then you decide that you want something else, you have to understand that it takes him a little bit, stuff has happened, he has built things, therefore he needs some time to undo what he's already built and do the thing that you want. So you can't complain when you can't change things all the time and then ask why it's taking longer and longer than expected, because every time you change something, it's not just like that. It's not like magically all of a sudden all the work that's already been done, it's gone, and now you're just free to start working on the next thing. That's not how it works. Think of it as building a building. If you start building the building halfway through and then all of a sudden you decide you want something different, well, you have to tear the thing down and then redo it again sometimes in order to get the thing you want. And unfortunately, sometimes that's very hard for people to grasp. So my tip to you is to say to like the people who do this to you, you say, this is what we decided on up front. Let me build this first, deliver this as it is right now, and then we will make another iteration and change it into the thing that you want. That way they get what they want and you don't have to go crazy over everybody changing stuff all the time.